Alrighty, and we are live. See what I'm talking about? Did you see what I mean? This is your host, Mickey, live on the Bad Filipino, and it's been a minute since I've done it, and I'm so honored to have my first political candidate right here in Sacramento. We've got Duke Cooney, who's running for county supervisor in 2022, which is what, a little over 300 days away for the voting you in.
Mm-hmm.
And you are an openly gay candidate. You're a husband. You're a father. You represent all of the people that, when I look at you, you're representing me. And so in this next half hour, we're definitely going to touch on, why you're running, your background, your political points, and of course, who you are and, what fuels you and to do what you do. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Duke. And why don't you give us a little background on the position you're running for and your responsibilities and what you look to do with that.
Yeah, so my name is Duke Cooney, and I'm running for Sacramento County Supervisor, District 2. A lot of folks know that we have a Senate and a House of Representatives, but not a lot of people focus in on the county and city level. So at those levels, we have the city council members who oversee everything within that incorporated area. And then we have our county supervisors, which represent different aspects of the entire Sacramento region. And that includes all those areas that are unincorporated within and between all of these other cities. So an example of that would be when you call the police or 911, the sheriff shows up versus the Sacramento Police Department. You might have something different than SMUD. You might have another special water district that you get your water from. So the county oversees that. They also oversee a $4.4 billion budget, which includes funds for the sheriff, the DA, mental health, behavioral health. They can do homeless response, pretty much everything a city council does, but expanded on a higher scope. So it's really imperative that we all glue in and take a look at what is a supervisor and what do they do, because they're even more powerful than our city council members. And I'm running to add diversity. I'm running to add a new perspective. But with the experience, I've worked at the state legislature on different statewide policy initiatives, from disability rights to fair labor rights for our prison workers. So I have this experience working on taking a social issue, putting it on paper in statute, and working through it with stakeholders, with community, to get to a place where we all sort of, find the sweet spot. I think that so quick in government, they like to just prescribe a solution and say, take it or leave it. There's not a lot of opportunity for people to glue in and say, wait a minute, I don't know if that one size solution fits all for my community. I think maybe that's great. Can we pull pieces and create a local solution? So that's another thing I'm trying to bring, just different perspectives to the table. You just don't get that with 5 people of the same demographic.
You do not. And I love your energy that you're bringing as you were explaining all of that. And those that were watching, I went ahead and scrolled through your website. Please go to his website. In fact, I've got the link going there below. So, what actually, when was it when you realized this is the direction you wanted to go with your career and your life, though? What sparked that interest for you? Because when we were talking off camera, and we're going to touch this later, you actually were more into dance.
Yeah, it was a life. I feel like I've lived so many lives. I'm only 28. I was in 3 different professional dance companies. Polynesian dance company, Folklorico dance company, and an African Caribbean dance company.
You did not mention the Polynesian. I did that growing up, being half Filipino, raised Hawaiian culture. So what?
I'm originally from Vallejo. That's like half of our culture.
Yes, I'm from Fairfield, so I got you.
Okay, 707.
707, living in the 916.
You're right.
Whoa. Okay, so which one? Okay, let's touch on that though. Let's get a little. We're going to be bouncing around. Bear with us. As we just met. So Polynesian, was that the first one you did, or which was the first dance you embarked on?
Yeah, it was actually Polynesian. I was maybe 12, and they had a class that they taught at our community center in Vallejo. It was with a group called Hui Tamanui, but it was great. We performed, literally a full-length hour production. We went to San Jose and competed. We won like the best all around of like all the groups there. It was so phenomenal. And obviously I'm half black and half white, not Polynesian, not a drop of Islander in me, but even at that young age, singing the songs in native Tahitian and Hawaiian, singing Maori chants, like it resonated with me that you can pay homage to cultures and other minority groups through their dance, through appreciation of their culture. And I think that even though now in my current career, I don't get to do a lot of dance, those lessons still stick with me. And I still feel that connection, that universalness to, Folklorico groups, Mexican heritage to Polynesian heritage. It's dance is so interconnection, and it's been fantastic for me.
I can totally relate to that. And I mean, speaking specifically on with Hawaiian culture, which I'm sure it transcends to others, you're right. The dance, I mean, because we did the same thing. We did the 5 different styles. We did the ancient and modern hula, the Maori, the Tahitian, and costumes, and we took the language, learned it, and the history, and a lot of the dances and the chanting were reflections of how they remembered their history and their genealogy, is how they did it, which a lot of cultures did that. So, and I love that it spoke to you, the mana spoke to you, because it really does. It's such a warm, welcoming, loving, like family ohana oriented, culture. And it just transcends, like you said, you didn't even have to have a drop of that in you to feel that, love. So I love that you did that. And then you went into the other dances, but that was when you hit college, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Here in Sacramento.
In Sacramento, yeah.
Okay. So which one did you do first, or did you do both of them? Because you mentioned a couple, the flamenco and the African.
Yeah, so Sacramento State has a fantastic African Caribbean dance program. They have classes. They have a dance company that they perform with every year, Sacramento Black Art of Dance. And it's traditionally led by Dr. Linda Goodrich, and she's just this pioneer of African history and bringing African culture and dance to Sacramento. And so that was my adult life as a dancer within the Sacramento dance department, and then through the Sacramento Black Art of Dance. That's honestly how I learned a lot of Black history that they don't teach in high school and, middle school that you'd think,
Right.
Yeah, and so much about me being proud of who I am as obviously an openly queer person, a person of color, and a biracial person was through dance. I feel like dance gave me a way to pave a path for myself where, growing up, maybe I didn't see a place with me within any community. But, with dance, it's a way that I can be proud of my culture, be proud of other cultures, and then just find a way for me to appreciate them, whether I'm a part of that community or not.
And, and touching on another thing, because this is going to circle around to the things you're pushing for and you're wanting to improve within here in District 2 in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. When did you know that, when did you recognize who you are and you come out to be yourself? How old were you?
So, 18. So okay. When in high school, all of my friends and my teachers knew, but I wasn't open to my family. I wasn't open to, a new friend. I would take time before I would acknowledge that. But, something about moving away to college, and I lived in the dorms my first year. So I was really just forced to be on my own, forced to figure things out. And it just gave me a new sense of pride. Like I wanted to be more proud of being a person of color. I wanted to be more proud of being gay. And I actually had the opportunity to start a fraternity for gay and bisexual, transgender men at Sac State. So
wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Yeah, it was fantastic. We created a space where there wasn't one before, and we were so many people's first gay friend. And I feel like from the beginning of our start to the end, like we just broke down so many barriers. Like I could just see people wanting to, ask questions about what it's like being queer, like demystify things, because college kids are coming from the Central Valley. They're coming from SoCal. They're coming from small towns, places where they've never encountered someone who's gay and openly gay at that.
That's very true.
So much of our socials were just kind of demystifying, letting them know that, hey, we're people too. We want the American dream like everyone else. But it was fantastic. And I had a sense of community building. And I think I saw myself as a leader, as a person of color, as an openly gay person, that I can be a leader. And, fast forward to this past year with all of the, uprisings across the country and just dissatisfaction with what's going on at every level of government. I really just took a look in the mirror and saw myself as a champion. And I just said, if no one is going to step forward and challenge the status quo, it'll be me. And that's what I've been doing since.
Goodness. And you touched on something so important as far as those that have the opportunity to go to college. Even to this day, sometimes that is the one opportunity for them to be around those like them and learn to be themselves, because maybe wherever they come from, that wasn't the opportunity. Maybe they just didn't have the strength within themselves, and it took being in a situation like that, which going forward. So, because looking at your vision, I'm going to share that screen as well, because let's touch on what it is you would like to do. Should you be, we're hoping, crossing fingers, you get voted into this position that you're hoping to change for the better here in Sacramento. And I'm going to go ahead and share that screen as you touch on that. We're going to go to your My Vision screen, because that is so, look at this. You're just so on it. So you start off with public safety. Let's touch on that first.
Yeah. So I'm vying to represent District 2, which incorporates South Sacramento. So from the Pocket area all the way across down Florin to Stockton and Franklin Boulevard. So it's a huge, diverse area. And you can drive from Pocket, and within about 5-6 minutes, you can see the entire landscape change. You can see the tree canopy stop. You start to see empty lots and trash. You really see where the funding stops. Even the infrastructure of bus stops, it really breaks down, and 2 cinder blocks and a plank of wood qualify as a stop once you get far enough into the district. And it's a miscarriage of justice is what it is, especially for our district, which is one of the most traveled by public transit. So folks are taking the system to pick up their kids, drop their kids off, go grocery shopping. And a lot of this just poor urban planning relates to public safety. So my vision and really just leveraging what the county can actually do is a reinvestment. Earlier this year, the Sacramento City Council changed their definition of what public safety meant. So from this traditional narrative of fire, police, and EMS to now include youth investments, such as behavioral health services, programming to keep kids, engaged, whether that's art programs or dance programs or after school programs. And I think that we can really get serious about that. And that can be our public safety response, being meaningful with how we give opportunities to youth, and really just improve, recidivism, keep kids out of the criminal justice system altogether. Another big thing.
As I skip along.
No worries. And also alternatives to 911. For so long we've relied on police as a one-stop for all, and it's just not the way. It's not going to work going forward. We need to have alternatives to 911. I'm currently working with Public Health Advocates, which is a statewide policy organization here in Sacramento. And we're working on a first response transformation campaign, which is compiling all the best practices and models and research to create a policy brief that'll have all these different options for an alternative to 911. So if you wanted a mental health response vehicle, we would have all the things you need to have incorporated to be successful at that. And I think that we can be investing in that as a county. We just did launch a program, but without adequate funding, those things stop within a year or two. And I think folks want to see long-lasting systemic change that their grandkids are going to continue to feel.
And exactly. And going through this as I scroll this, what would it take though to have all this? I mean, your plans are great. I mean, you have everything from, the housing and homelessness crisis, environmental climate change, healthcare, huge, especially with what happened last year. Youth and education. And that's what I want to circle around back to, because you have here about the pilot program, grant program for families and cultural facilities, visiting arts, museums. So essential. You meant, you did dance, and dances you felt is what, honed in on you being able to be yourself authentically, learning about, you talked about the history you learned from, Black history that's not in public school system, which of course, fighting to put into system the critical race theory, which states are fighting like heck to say nope.
Right.
And are those things you're looking also to, is that something you have influence on?
Yeah. So as a county supervisor, obviously there are limitations, but there are also great opportunities, like a $4.4 billion budget. which, gets passed every year regardless of who's on the board. So, for me as someone coming in, being able to advocate for youth education, grant programs so folks can take their kids to the museums that are all around us, the concerts, the music, the dance performances. As a kid, I was also involved in music. I did concert band and marching band and was in percussion and all of that in middle school and high school. And those programs probably are the single most reason of why I was able to get to college. It kept me focused. It taught me about integrity. It taught me about accountability, how to work with a team, how to deal with problems, and how to be a leader. For the first time in my life, those were opportunities where I was judged solely on my merit, solely on who I was as a person and as an individual. And I had mentors who believed in me, who allowed me to become a leader over others. And that was so transformative for me. And I think of kids who are growing up now who need an outlet, who need to take themselves out of their home environments and reinvent themselves for the first time in their lives. Maybe they're not stuck in this hierarchy at home. Now they're able to be the captain of the volleyball team or the, drum major of the marching band. And I think that ensuring that parents and families are included in that drops recidivism, that keeps kids out of trouble, that, improves families and parents. Happy people don't steal things. Happy people don't, harm their children. Obviously there are circumstances where that happens, but I think if we can improve just the quality of life for folks, I think that we can do so much just to transform our community in a very impactful way.
Agreed. I mean, everything you mentioned, art, sports, dance, music, those are the core of how it develops you as an individual, the team playing, the, leadership skills. And a lot of schools, they've removed that.
Yeah.
And even now, because you talk about, I mean, it's not for another like 300 plus days. So you're campaigning now. And a lot of people want to see the change now. And it's so hard because there is a fear that, oh, look, thank you, Ginger. There's a concern because with other variants, Delta variant and those forthcoming, people still, on different sides of the fence with vaccines, with mask mandates. If we end up getting shut down again, I mean, kids are going back to school, but flu season is coming, right? So it's a lot of the things that can pull people back. Is there something you're even able to have influence with other than just the campaigning for what you want between now and then that can start the ball rolling, right? Or, I mean, I'm not sure because like I said, I know very little how this all works. If you have any influence in those that you're talking to that are in doing things now, because do we want to wait that long until those things happen,
And that's the struggle, once I, get everyone on board, see my vision for Sacramento and get them invested in it, they want to see it now. They're like, here's my vote, go do it, go make it happen. Here's your mandate. And it's a little drawn out process. But the biggest thing is it's a platform, as a candidate for public office, I have, my social media accounts, I have, the ability to take stances on issues. And I see it as an ability to move politicians one way or the other. The incumbent I'm running against, very centrist when it's convenient. And especially now when we have sort of these big ticket issues, like a whole new criminal justice agency that the county just proposed with no community input, I might add. We had things, and at the beginning of the pandemic, we had no fault evictions. We had, just different things that came up where supervisors could have chosen the right thing to do, but they didn't. And often in the issue of, preventing no fault evictions, the incumbent I'm running against, they were the deciding vote. There was another vote to change the time that supervisors meet so that more people can show up. A lot of folks are working at 9:30 in the morning. And again, the same person was the deciding vote. So, there's not a lot that I can do because I'm not on the board yet.
Right.
But I can make him take a stance. If I'm for a certain budget allocation, then I challenge him to say that he's not or he is.
Right.
And he has not had a serious challenger in the 8 years he's been in office. And when you don't have a challenger, you don't feel accountable.
Exactly.
You're the Vatican. You're
exactly. And good for, because that was going to be the next question is what are you doing and what can you do to earn people's trust? Because trust is hard to come by, especially after everything that happened, because you nailed everything. When that pandemic hit, it hit everybody. And let's be real, okay? Because those that are not marginalized, those that are not oppressed, those that live in privilege, and that is a real thing, all of a sudden they were affected too, and they did not like that at all. This pandemic, this virus pulls no punches, is not selective on who it attacks. All the money, even though there were those with the money that could afford to stay away in quarantine, right? That in the very beginning were paying to get the vaccines first or the testing and all that. Despite even having that didn't matter. So now trust is, everyone's so stressed out, right? And on their own, their people are handling it in different ways. Some folks don't know how to handle it. We don't have a rule book for this. So what you mentioned was a good example of how you would earn trust. You're like, all right, cool. You're still there. We're running. What are you doing about this? And how are you fixing this? We want answers. That's good. Because I'm sure you're given, what have been some of the hardest questions, or I shouldn't say hardest questions, the biggest obstacles when presented with questions by people from Sacramento that they've had for you that you would like to talk about right now?
Yeah, just to touch on what you've said on building trust, it has been difficult. There are a lot of local leaders who weren't quite engaged in my campaign. There were a lot of local organizations that were kind of waiting to see what I would say, waiting to see where I would stand on issues. And the single most important thing that's helped me is siding with community. We have an amazing, robust amount of local organizations, local advocates, local folks doing the work to combating homelessness, to helping, lower our incarceration rates, to think of public safety ideas. These things don't need to be reinvented. Like there's no, special wheel out there. They just need to be listened to. And I've built my platform and continue to develop it with the input of community. What do people want to see? What have you been shouting at the top of your lungs for the past 10 years about? And what can I now take and elevate? Because it's an amazing idea. It's needed. And just being community centered, I think candidates so easily like to feed into the narrative of, I have to choose this platform. I have to say, check these boxes. And that's all fine. But people want to know that you're with them. Like that you're not just going to say, oh, I'm for reimagining homelessness. Like we need a commitment that you're going to fight for mobile showers, that you're going to fight for safe spaces, that you're going to fight for tangible solutions that we want to see as the community who's most impacted. And it's that I'm starting to see people come to me now and say, hey, would you like to come speak to our membership? Would you like to talk to us about your beliefs and where you stand? Because they've seen where I stand on issues and that I really care about engaging those folks who are doing the great work out there. And particularly around homelessness. So I think that's a great place to start. So I volunteered out on Richards Boulevard with the Sacramento LGBT Center, and we did STD testing, hepatitis testing. We gave out water and food and supplies. And every person I encountered, I always asked them, do you get CalFresh? Do you have SSI benefits? Do you have any sort of income? And then do you have access to medical care? And I would say that 9.5 out of 10 times, they said no to every single one.
Exactly.
No. And even the, 5-line questionnaire that we had to, release to be able to draw their blood and do the test, it took folks about 15, 20 minutes to work their way through it because a lot of people are suffering from mental illness. Maybe they are not necessarily literate, whatever the case may be. And then I think of, how are you going to fill out a 3-page CalFresh form, go to the county office, deliver it, or wait a minute, you can also go online. But who has access to a tablet, a phone, Wi-Fi?
That's right there.
And I saw an opportunity. How transformative would it be if we sent our DHS and DHA workers out there with an iPad, hotspot, and work through people's mental illness, sign them up for CalFresh, sign them up for benefits, and take it a step further, set aside a pot of money so that they can get their birth certificate, so they can get their social security card, so they can get a form of identification. It's just things that pull you into being a member of our society. We are approaching homelessness as a triage and as a Band-Aid shop, and it's bleeding money. We need to do something meaningful, impactful, and in a very community and face-to-face way. I heard a horror story where DHS workers went out there and handed out the different forms to fill out. And I just kept thinking, like, how ignorant is that? Like, how do you really think everyone here is going to be able to fill these forms out, find a way across town to the county office, deliver it? And then if there's an issue, where are they going to receive their mail to fix the problem? It's just, it needs to be pragmatic and make sense. And, even just that simple iPad idea where we challenge the workers to go out there and sign them up. I hate that in America we have such a tendency to knock down handouts. It's not a handout. It's saying that there is a bottom level that I'm willing to accept our society to suffer through. Going out there and seeing mothers and children and elderly just with absolutely nothing. Like, the whole time I kept thinking, this cannot happen. No matter what you do in your life, we cannot let this be a reality. Not in the 5th largest economy in the world, in the capital city of that. Like, it's just, it's ridiculous.
Well, it kind of shows you what's more important, doesn't it? At the moment.
Yes.
And you right there, that was a great example. You provided a specific solution to an ongoing problem. You're just going to have to do it on your own. Here, we provide you the resources, but you just got to figure it out on your own. Why? Do that extra 1, 2, 3 steps. You have to have that compassion. You have to have that empathy. And that's what we look for with people in positions of power and leadership.
Yeah.
We don't need you ruling over us. We need to know that we can rely on you, that we can come to you because of the fact that you have the power and the ability to make those changes and move that ball forward. And so I do appreciate that. Was a very good example, because you're right. They can't getting mail where? Filling out a 3-page form? How? The simple iPad technology is amazing. That could happen so quickly. Is that something that's one of many things you're proposing for once you're elected?
Exactly. And I started my career at legislative staff in the California legislature. And so very high level idea of government and governance. But at every level, I just kept thinking, insert technology here, insert technology there. There's no reason that this process, it takes so long. There's no, it's bureaucracy has become this beast. And what's happened is it takes up our funds. You throw $1 million to, climate change or to green equity, and it gets fizzled out. 40% of that go to bureaucratic admin costs. And then the people on the ground end up with cents on the dollar. And I just want to revolutionize that. I want to think of pragmatic, technological, 21st century solutions to these problems. Even just the website, it's the most difficult thing in the world to navigate. Chief complaint from folks, it's like, I can't find this, I can't find that. It should be easier to locate these resources, but it's not.
It's almost as though it's designed to not be so easy. But that could just be me. It could just be me. And talk. I pulled up the climate change portion of what your plan, because this year, every year it seems to get worse when it comes to fires, when it comes to the drought, when it comes to dryness, and this year is no exception. Even Lake Orville, not just Folsom. We always focus on Folsom Lake, but Orville. It's so low. The fires are just drying everything out, the air quality, the lack thereof, on top of having a pandemic. And, the homelessness situation, a lot of them, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, being tested, offered vaccines. You were bringing them food and water. I don't know. My mind is just kind of going, because I know I live in privilege. Privilege is a thing because I have a roof over my head, and I have a job, and I have indoor plumbing, and my washer and dryer is inside, and I have food, and I have everything at my disposal. And I would be the person to be out there with you to do the things, right? Do you have within your campaign, and people should sign up, by the way, going back to your website, because you have on there where people can sign up to stay up to date, right? It's like a newsletter, correct?
Yeah, there's a newsletter. Also, when we have volunteer opportunities, we'll send out those as well.
Right. Exactly. Because it sounds like you would be right out there with everybody.
Exactly.
Getting the things done, which is what we need to see.
Exactly. And I want the campaign to really be a benefit to folks. We're planning to do neighborhood cleanups all around the district so that, we're actively doing something. We're not just saying, clean up these empty lots that have been dirty for generations. Like, we're going to go out there and start the process. We'll get the ball rolling. And then when we're in office, we'll kick it up a notch. And I really want to have those types of opportunities, not only to listen to folks, but also show them that, hey, we're going to be a benefit to you, and make the most of this campaign, because it should benefit you from beginning to end, and keep moving. It's so needed, especially in terms of climate change. People need to feel invested. And if you live, on Stockton Boulevard and you walk outside of your house and it's busy freeway, there's not a tree in sight, there's not a park in sight, there's no greenery, and it's just all industrial, you don't feel dialed into climate change. What is it to you? You don't see any benefit. You just see that you're paying taxes, you're paying into the system that's not for you. It's not giving you anything out of it. And I think that's why we have so many disenfranchised voters. In our district, there's about 150,000 voters, only about 30,000 vote per election for this specific seat for supervisor. So
just to give everyone an idea, which area does District 2 cover?
So it's the entire pocket area all the way across to Franklin Boulevard, and it's everything just before Elk Grove.
And you said it's okay, so of the total people, how many total and how many actually voting?
Yeah, so there are 150,000 registered voters, and of those registered voters, only about 30,000 have voted in this election since 2010.
Do you know why?
Midterm.
I'm gonna say, do you know why?
Yeah, well, I do. Midterm elections, not popular. We don't have candidates who are out there and getting people excited. Nobody knows what a supervisor is.
I'll be very, very honest. I'm so glad to have you on the show, because I thought, you know what? You have to start from the ground up. You can't build a castle starting at the top.
Yes.
You have to lay a foundation, and then you build from there. And you're part of the foundation, it sounds like, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
There was a poll in our district, and the incumbent, and the poll was, do you know who your supervisor is? And do you know who this person is? And it was the person's name. Less than 10% knew who he was. So, maybe name.
And he relies on that.
And he relies on that because he'll get name recognition regardless. Yep. But only 10% of people knowing who you are tells me you're not out in the community, tells me you're not out hustling and meeting with organizations. It tells me that you're not glued in to the people you're representing. You're getting by on having a popular last name and no serious person wanting to take you on. And it, again, leads you to a lack of accountability.
But getting the salary, because here's the thing, and this was brewing around in my mind too, because now that we have the internet and everybody has one of these, right? Because when you were talking about the campaigns you have set, whether it's cleanup, whether it's going out and helping the displaced, you can invite people to social media it in a positive manner to show that there are more people out there doing things that need to be taken care of. Because when it's hidden and it's not covered, people, when you don't know, ignorance is complete bliss, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was revealed last year when the PPP loans that were supposed to go to the small businesses, majority of those that were women and or Black owned, BIPOC owned, missed out because the bigger corporation snagged about, what was it, 1/3 of the money that was intended for these individual local run businesses to stay afloat during this pandemic. And these are things that would not have been revealed years back until way too late. But now, thanks to modern technology, we find out in an instant, right? So you being out there on boots to the ground, as they say, could implore that sort of thing, not to do it for brownie points, but to let people know the other 100,000 that aren't voting, look. And you have been doing it, because I've been following your socials, and it's key. This is where I'm like, this is why I was so stoked to have you on my podcast, because I'm like, he's doing it. And he's showing examples of how he's doing it. And this is wonderful.
Yeah, and it's literally such an amazing opportunity for me to be glued into community and to go out there. We just got connected with Habitat for Humanity, and helping them build houses here in South Sacramento.
Nice.
And then I had always heard of Habitat for Humanity, but I had no idea that they gave, super, super low interest loans to, people who put in 100 hours at a work site.
Wow.
And I would have I'm a homeowner. I'm privileged enough to do that. But I was thinking, like, I could have done this a lot cheaper and a lot sooner had I known that Habitat for Humanity had this amazing program.
Yeah.
And I volunteered through a separate organization, and I was like, how impactful if we brought some volunteers? Dipped into my database, pulled out some folks, and we went back and went out there and helped them again, built fences, helped with landscaping, because the folks who are going to get these houses are all low income, are the first time buying a home. And I was just, this is such an untapped resource. If we could replicate Habitat for Humanity all over the district, leverage county properties, cut the permitting fees and get folks into homes, I think that's a tangible way that we're helping community, and also that this organization can even give back even more, and create opportunities for home ownership. I think gentrification is another major issue.
Since I remember, the last big one was 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not sorry to interrupt you, but you just hit a spot, because I was a Lyft driver for 3 years, and I started in 2017, and just picking up folks and learning. I mean, you learn a lot about a city as a Lyft driver if you're good at Gab, which I am. And I welcome those who want to talk, obviously, disclosure. If you don't talk, we don't talk, but I'll pick up a lot of people working from construction to things to people in political positions, you name it. And we're talking about the things that are happening within the city. And I see it because I'm picking up and dropping off. And it really kicked up in 2015. And then I started driving mostly in San Francisco. And then I really learned about why it's like it trickles down, right? So gentrification was huge in the Bay, which trickled out to us here because folks were moving out here, buying up all the property because they couldn't afford to live in their own city that they're working in. And so... And it's still happening. I mean, I live in Rancho Cordova, and I'm seeing the gentrification happening here. There are a lot of housing areas that are being built, and I'm seeing the sticker price for it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I can remember when it was a lot more affordable 7 years ago.
Exactly.
10 years ago, living in Sacramento. These last 3 or 4 years, especially this last year, I don't know how people are doing it. I'm fortunate to be able to be doing it, but I don't know how people are doing it.
It's scary. And, I'm paying probably about $200-$300 more than I was as a renter, just having a mortgage.
Yeah.
And I think of how transformative that opportunity was for me and my income, having generational wealth. Who would have thought I could have that? As a person of color, I think that for my, millennial Gen X generation, the idea of homeownership, the idea of having sort of a long and protected career is a dream almost, because we see all these barriers that are coming up, whether it's gentrification and higher prices, and we see ourselves being priced out of access. I would have never known that I qualified to be a homeowner had I not had the opportunity to be connected with a realtor. And then they ran my numbers, and lo and behold, I qualified. And I think of how many people, who speak different languages. In South Sac, we have over 17 languages. And how many? We have over 17 languages spoken.
That I did not know.
Yeah, I volunteered at the COVID vaccination clinic over at the Pinal Center. And Mai Vang did such an amazing job of, hustling and having this clinic every single Friday. She was out there running with clipboards, left, right, all around. But also she had a flyer for every single one of these languages, from, Hmong to Mien to, Tagalog to English, Spanish. And it really occurred to me that, when we do have first-time home buyer programs, when we do show that, the county's offering grant programs, what language are they listed in? Are the platforms that they're advertising for these things, are those culturally sensitive? Are they in areas someone who doesn't speak English would find and be able to take advantage of? And I think that, especially going into a post-COVID world, is so essential. Everyone should have access to all the resources the county has, and the supervisor should make sure that access is key, not just for young folks like me who, wouldn't have thought to look up to see if they qualify for a loan, but for families who are paying high rents, and maybe they can afford to get a house, but they need, some sort of leverage from the county. I don't think they need to solve everything, but they need to do what they can when the opportunity presents itself.
I'm pulling up more things about you because, I think it's key for folks to see that you are one of us.
Yeah.
That you didn't come from money. You didn't come from wealth. You didn't come from, you worked hard and you saw firsthand what needed to be improved, and so what would be the last question? I'm trying to think how we can wrap this up because this has been such a wonderful conversation. Is there anything I've left out that we should touch on before wrapping this up?
I think we pretty much touched a lot of the big policy ideas. Again, I'm still working with community stakeholders, still meeting with folks to figure out what kind of platform I can build around their wants and needs. I really want to have listening sessions and hear what people want in their communities. Do you want a new park? Do you want more trees? Do you want fruit-bearing trees? What is it, the things that you need to be thriving and not just surviving? And to touch on your point about, being one of us, I did not grow up from privilege. My mom, she was a teen mom. When she had my brother, she had the option of keeping her baby or moving out. So she chose to take her baby and go and grow up real fast at 16. And before she was 23, she had 2 children and was figuring out life as she went. And, as a kid, I realized that my circumstances were not a forever situation. I knew that although things were hard, sometimes when there wasn't enough food or, I couldn't have a new toy or I couldn't go on a field trip because I didn't have, the $20 or $15. I just kept this idea of having a better future for myself. And I hustled. I didn't have help filling out my college applications, didn't have help filling out my law school applications, but I paved the path for myself. And now that I'm, in a career, as a homeowner and doing all these amazing things, I want to reach back and I want to pull forward as many people as possible because I don't think it should be this hard. I don't want people to have to pave their own path. I want to help you every step of the way. And I think that's, how you diversify who goes to law school and becomes judges and lawyers and prosecutors. And I think that's how you make a better community. There's no reason we should be adversarial. There's too much at stake going forward for us not to come together and find solutions that work for everybody.
Oh, I truly appreciate your compassion, your positivity with that. And you definitely have leadership ability. Like I just felt it in this entire conversation. And so, in closing this up, everyone, go to his website, vote for him, donate for him because donations are key.
Yes.
Running for these things are not cheap. Sign up so that you get up to date with everything. It's DukeCooney2022.com. Well, I'm going to vote for you and I'm going to donate for your cause and I'm going to sign up because I would like to help in any way possible as well.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. And, continue to share things, so, and who knows, maybe let's have you back on here again, like right before the thing's going on and seeing where we're at with it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm totally down for an update. I feel like every time I have these check-in with podcasts or news outlets or an article, I always level up a little bit. So there's always more to tell.
There's always more, right? We want to know the progress of what's happening. We want to know, how you've reached folks and bringing them along with you and what more you need, what more we can do, what more you will be doing, all of that, which is great. So so besides that, so just for now, just people should sign up for the newsletter. Is there anything else they can do besides that, or that's probably going to lead them through?
Yeah, so if you sign up, stay up to date, you'll have volunteer opportunities, you'll have updates of what we're doing. And yes, we're a super grassroots campaign, which I think is going to be amazing, phenomenal. We're not accepting contributions from law enforcement agencies, not because anything is wrong with them, but I think that given the historical context and the climate of this country, constituents should know that when I make a decision as a Board of Supervisor member on the Sheriff's Department, on law enforcement, on the budget, they should know that it's not from a place that I'm benefiting at all. It's a place rooted in the merits and rooted in what community needs. And I think we need more politicians to really turn down certain funding. Because I can tell you, working at the state, a lot of times those donations can sway votes.
Oh, they do.
It is the worst thing in the world to see. And I want to do something different. You know, if I could only run on, grassroots.
That is good to hear, because a large portion of the money that was supposed to go to the city that was supposed to go to help us on the PUA went to the sheriff's department. And that was revealed. So, so many of them need to be held accountable. That needs to be, I mean, I'm an advocate for them being held accountable for the things that are not going right.
Yes.
How else do you earn trust in law enforcement when you can't tell who you trust? And that comes from folks like you and I, right? And so you're right. So that's good to hear that, because chances are, if you accept that kind of thing, that's more of a buying you kind of thing, and people will think that, whether it is or not. So
exactly. And also for sheriffs, how incredible does it mean to say, hey, I'm still going to allow you to have a seat at the table to have these discussions. You don't have to buy me for me to hear what you have to say.
There you go.
If it's right, it's right. If it's not, it's not. And yeah, I'm super excited. We're off to a great start, meeting with a lot of groups, and really just creating a platform that people can get behind. I think that, by the end of this whole campaign, everybody's going to know at least what a supervisor does, and that they need to start voting.
Well, I finally do. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Duke, for being on the show.
Of course.
And I wish you the best of luck. And like I said, I'm going to do all the things. This is Mickey Angelini with the Bad Filipino. Please go to the website. It's right there. Follow him on all his socials. He's doing great things, and wishing you all a great rest of your day.